right, my friend. Thank you for jumping on the podcast today. I'm really pumped and excited to just chat with you, man, and kind of get to know more about your career journey and all that good stuff.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. It's something special you put together, so I'm happy to be part of it.
Love it. Okay, so I want to set the scene of like how we met. And I don't even know if you remember kind of the first time or how we met or how we kind of crossed paths, but here's the scene. It's the 2010s. We're both working at a large bank, Bank of America, and we're both branch managers at the time. And I remember the times that I had met you, I got a sense that you were very similar to me in that we weren't going to be one of those lifers who stayed in the branch manager role forever. Like that wasn't part of our plan. We wanted to move on to the next thing. And the next thing logically for you and I was going to be the district manager role. So this was a role that you'd be responsible for like 10 to 15 branches. You know, it came with more complexity, more sophistication, obviously more money as well. And I remember there was an opening down south. And it's funny, anytime somebody was like applying for one of these jobs, I hate to say this, but I would compare myself to them. I would say, okay, are they more intelligent than me? Do they have better sales results? Whatever the thing may be. And I remember like comparing myself to you and thinking, oh, okay, what does this guy have? So then I want to fast forward. It's the day of this meeting. They've called 10 to 15 of the top branch managers in the area for this meeting. And we get in the meeting and they're asking questions and everyone's really talking a lot. But I noticed something about you that was unique. You didn't talk much. You listened a lot. And when you spoke, everyone listened in the room because it was clear that you were, curious. You actually had value to add. And then it's funny, a couple of weeks later, I heard that you got the job. And I remember turning to my assistant manager and saying, you know what? I'm not even mad. This guy totally deserves it. This guy's a badass. Like, all right, he deserves this one. Do you have any memory of that time at all? Or am I just making this all up?
It's so interesting to hear it's just a different perspective, other than your own, because we're own bias, our own experiences and things that we take and learn. I absolutely do. I'm sketchy on the meeting. I remember meetings like that. I believe I remember the one, but yeah, man, I was looking for a way to stand out like anyone and trying to really synthesize like what's the real bottom line here, and then how to like get some kind of productive takeaway. And then the job, man, they didn't come around often, and I think to be considered felt like okay, maybe this is the path forward. You know what I mean? So,
100%
put everything into it. Yeah,
it's funny you brought up standing out because I'm going to be asking you some questions about that because I think that's something, not to give you too much praise early on. I don't want you to get a big head, but I noticed, yeah, it's already big. I knew that was something that you were strategically doing. You were finding a ways to stand out. And I think that's ultimately what led to you getting that big job, that big promotion. And obviously it's led to where you're at today. So I'm glad you brought that up. We're going to circle back to that. But what I want to do, I want to kick things off with like a little lightning round. So one of my favorite interviewers of all time is Larry King. And he did something that I really, really liked, which was a lightning round. So he asked folks quick questions. You don't have any time to think about it. So like no 30 seconds to think about it. It's instinctual. It's off the top of the dome. Are you ready, my friend?
No. This is my worst position to be in, my most compromising. No.
Okay.
I'm so critical to that one. Yeah, let's hear it.
Oh, I love it. Okay. So if you could have dinner with any person, past or present, who would it be and why?
Oh, man. Dinner. I'd love to get inside of the head of Abraham Lincoln. He's been a pillar in my life. There's someone that stands out for the variety of reasons. I identified him as one of like the best presidents in our history. Then I've read a couple books, as you can see back here. And like one of them, really kind of tells about how he wanted to help people, his plan, his path, things like that. I think he'd be a great sit down. Absolutely.
100%. Oh, and like, I think I got a new appreciation for him when I watched the movie Lincoln that came out a few years ago. I'm sure you saw it, but it's fantastic.
I believe I did. What stands out for me was I believe it's Team of Rivals based on the book, which I had read. And so I'm like really understanding it, the way that story's told. But yeah, he'd be a great sit down. Anybody would in history, but I think that's someone that's like a hero to me in some sense.
Love it. Nailed it. You're off to a fast start. Next one, first concert you went to. Do you remember the first concert you ever went to?
Yes, I do. Smashing Pumpkins.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you the theater. I don't remember the venue. I remember the date. That went over like a lead balloon, but we were friends afterwards. But it was super cool, and it was something where I'm like, oh, this is for me. Like I enjoy being in part of this energy and this raucous group of people that were just going to just do whatever it was to experience that moment, you know? So absolutely.
Love that. Isn't there, there's such an energy going to a concert. Like I don't think we need to sell people on the idea of going to concerts, but I love listening to music live, and it's totally different than being at home. So I love that. Next one. What is one thing you long believed to be true, but isn't?
Sure. I long believed that having a great business plan, a nice business model that on paper made revenue and was able to sustain a household or grow and scale to economic profit, was viable, was going to work. It turns out that having a good business plan on paper and getting people to pay you money are two completely different things.
Oh, yes.
There's a tragic downside of that, unfortunately, too. But you know, when you think about like you're going to go to do something, which we'll talk about, you know, I'm sure later, but you're going to go do something for yourself. Use a proven business model, or be sure that you can understand how people are going to pay you money, because you know, asking for it's tough for a lot of people. So,
oh, wow, I love that. You're right. It's like you can have the best plans, but until the rubber meets the road, like that's when you're going to find out, can you actually get people to come on board? So I love that. Next one. If you had to survive a zombie apocalypse, because God knows that could happen, with only 3 items, what would you bring? You only have 3 items to survive. What are you bringing?
I'm bringing water.
Okay. Kind of boring answer, but okay. All right.
And man, probably bullets.
Ooh, okay. Tactical survival.
I'm thinking like, yeah, man, I got these 4 kids. You know what I'm saying? My neighbors like think I'm some pillar in the community. I'm supposed to like help them if the shit goes down. Like, yeah, I'm bringing those 3 things, man.
I love it. Okay, and last one. Would you say you're more introvert, extrovert, or ambivert? Kind of in the middle.
I never heard that term ambivert before you just mentioned it, so that's interesting. Up until this morning, evaluating, you know, myself, I think of those things, those character traits that are on the you know, there's some percentage of ocean, so openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and then neuroticism. And I'm highly neurotic. I'm a spaz, but I really thought my whole life that I was somewhere like more in that introvert, and I still believe that to this day, where I'm just some percentage more in the conventional ways it's defined. You know, recharge on my own, don't mind relaxing, just kind of by myself, and those things. And sometimes being around, you know, action can be taxing. I got a part of me that craves it too. So I just don't know. Also, was I an extroverted person that was like beat down through a series of things where I just like stopped kind of putting myself out there? And I'm not sure actually to this. I'm still going to go 80% likely. I'm more introvert than extrovert.
Oh, what a great answer. And I feel like I like that you said it's not necessarily you just are an introvert or just an extrovert. And like, maybe some people are. Yeah,
I
could
think
be
it's some range or gradient.
100%. And I always was at work, people wouldn't know that I was an introvert for lots of years because they like to call me a professional extrovert. Like whenever I was at work, I could turn it on. So I feel like maybe you were similar in that way too. Like depending on the audience or the situation, you know how to adjust, right?
It was like, in some senses, a rehearsed kind of, you know, persona. It was body armor, you know.
Yes.
You know, I'm going to put up this body armor because, you know, I don't know. I'm going to take feedback poorly. You know, I'm going to take it really personally. I joke about that to this day. You know, I'm going to overreact. I'm going to kind of overanalyze what someone might say or do or think, and I wish I didn't, but I do. And it just depends on the case. But so I identify with it in that regard a lot, actually.
Okay, moving on. I want to talk about career. So obviously you and I started our careers, and I was actually kind of going through your LinkedIn, and Matt, we've had a very similar journey. If you think about it, right? We both started at the bank, worked our way up. Now we've kind of gone on our own. So I want to start like in the beginning. Take me back to the beginning. How did you first get involved with Bank of America? Like, was that a dream to start in finance? Like maybe kind of tell me about how you got your start in banking.
Oh man, there's so many ways I could do this one. I mean, I loved finance. I was raised in a household where this was something where, you know, of the 3 things that my father, for example, was very sure that he was going to teach his kids, one of them was going to be like the rule of 72, Mr. 5%, these different rules about how, you know, the law of compounding interest, basically, and, you know, the 8th wonder of the world by Einstein, I believe. So those were certain things and principles that were like taught. My dad had this belief that that you could create generational wealth in one lifetime if you really put your mind to it, right? And I think that played out in my life in a couple different very ways. But so I think I was fascinated by it, and I was curious. And then I went to school. I looked at the finance world, and I'm just more of an abstract person. I in my day-to-day business, I help people do things. You know, we just break down speed bumps with hammers, tear down walls, jump over them, run through them. We figure out how to solve problems. But I was really more of like kind of this abstract person. So, you know, I like to say my brother is really more pragmatic. He was the finance guy. I'm more like head in my clouds. I'm going to be the econ guy. So I went into economics and actually failed out of economics. I saved this dream by being a political economist. The bank just kind of validated that for me a little bit. It basically said, well, good on you that you did this thing, if that's important, but maybe you have these things that you know a little bit more about, that you're curious about. Now you get to talk to people about those every day. Apart from that, I had tried to get it to apply there and maybe I think one other bank. And I was like, this is just who I'm going to roll with. I'm going to rock with these guys, you know. And my father, again, influential person in my life, had been a legacy like Bank of America customer since in like the 50s or something.
Wow.
Like that, out of the area. Yeah.
Sure.
So yeah, and I was 11. I had my little ATM card, and you know, I was a saver at that rate, and I still am to this day, and coupon clipper. And I think the bank was just a forum to kind of go like, okay, you know, do you like the jobs that this place has to offer? My brother had been there. He said, "Hey man,
no way."
Go back. Yeah.
Wow.
He got out of college, went to work almost straight away, worked his way up, and he's like, "Hey man, they'll help you go back to school," which I had dropped out, and he's like, "If you want to do that, they can help you do that," and they did do that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's I'd say how I got into it. Also, you know, this gentle nudge from my parents, like, you know, what are you gonna do? Like, I was just an idiot, and I didn't really figure myself out until about this time. So,
oh, I love that.
Yeah.
And isn't it interesting too, like those little nuggets that our parents give us, or those little things, like, I don't know, at least at the time when I'm younger, I didn't necessarily think about them, but they sunk in. And then it's funny, as we get older, we kind of tap back into them. So like, I guess I'm very shocked and surprised to hear your dad was talking about generational wealth before it was even cool to talk about that. Like now that's all cool to talk about. Like everyone talks about that, but it feels like that was pretty cool.
Agreed. And he's, you know, by my assessment, the others, even my mom is like, if you know, lined up all these people and said, you know, who's going to raise the most financially savvy children? I don't know. I don't think you would have picked this guy. I just think it was something that he like thought about, and that turned into a borderline obsession for me. So
I love that.
And then the bank just continued to provide, you know, sufficiently challenging opportunities, right? Benefits and things that I didn't have before. I was trying to transition out of a different a way of life, one, and also an environment where I was in hospitality, which is wonderful. I still to this day look for people with the hospitality gene, never have a guest leave unsatisfied type of thing. But there wasn't a lot of like career potential in my mind. So I thought banking, that's going to be a better path for me.
For sure. And, you know, there were so many opportunities working for the bank. Like my wife still works for Bank of America. That's where we met. And, you know, she's been there 15 years and been able to start in consumer doing, you know, tech strategy now for the bank. So like you can build a really good career at the bank. And I guess my big question for you now is like, you know, that you had worked at that company. How many years did you spend at Bank of America? About 10, 12 or
almost
more?
15, just shy of 15.
Almost 15.
Like a week or two.
So if you think about those 15 years,
right,
like what do you think stands out as like the biggest lesson you learned in working for the corporate world? Anything stand out to you as like the biggest thing you kind of learned or took away from that?
Oh man, if you had just said the biggest lesson you learned, I would just say the all of the things I believed before. My experience actually validated the hell out of those for me. Like, hey, look out for people, be there for someone else. Like the good people of the world have an obligation to be able to try to support one another.
Yeah.
That you can have mentorship, that you can be a shepherd if that's a meaningful archetype for you or not or something, but that you can help people and give your best and that counts. So then you said from the corporate world, I just think, you know, the corporate world has to be this kind of formulaic machine, right? That has to like, if it's formulaic, optimize the formula, right?
Yep.
So people are one of the factors of those productions there. And, you know, a factor of production can get compromised like any asset. It's just the reality, right? So, look, the best things in my life happened to me in my time there. Like, I don't remember all of them, but like met my wife. had my kids. Bank gave me
so
some time
cool.
away. They helped me go back to school and then helped me get a second degree. You know what I'm saying?
Huge.
Yeah, I sorted myself out even more after leaving, but to some extent while I was there, it gave me like some confidence about, you know, what I was meant to do and how I was meant to help people. So, yeah, corporate world, man, I don't know. I could take or leave parts of it, but I really do.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's a machine, and if you get behind the vision and the mission of a company, and you can go to work with that every day, I'm a huge fan of capitalism, man. So I'm going to say like it's the greatest thing that we have for most people. It can provide a path forward. It can provide structure in their life, and for a lot of people, that's beneficial. So I can't knock it at all.
For sure.
In that way.
But let me ask you this though, Matt, because I feel like you and I are similar in this way, and maybe I'm overstepping, but I felt like you and I we built a good career in the corporate world. But for me, and maybe for you, I never felt like this was where, like, I felt like I was different than the average person, and that I didn't necessarily love the corporate aspect of treat everybody the same, get results at all costs. You know, you are your work, you have no life outside of work. I felt like I never felt fully like this is where I felt most comfortable and I could be my total self. Were you similar to that, or am I misreading it?
I 100% align with that, and with no trepidation, and believe that's the broken part. That's the cyborg part of the system. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a benefit to everything we do, right? There's this mechanical component. By definition, it's not organic. You know, it's not centered on, you know, growth. And anyway, without getting too like existential, no, those are the broken parts of it. I don't know if they can be improved to be square in our time. I don't know. I like to believe that, you know, we'll help change that. I'm a naturally diplomatic person, but man, it's exhausting, you know, to do these like, you know, corporate politics, or to have the best idea not be the idea that we go forward with. You know, I'm like, but here's the best idea. We sat in this room, we got all together, lightning struck. Let's
we
go,
got
let's
it.
Go with, and like, no, we're gonna go a different direction. You know,
because of an ego or because of a stupid priority, whatever it is, right?
I think egos and agendas can will and are ruining probably any enterprise. Right?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there's a part of that too that does help it also go. You know,
true.
People have to have incredible self-belief to see their vision come through. But you don't need to compromise or minimize, I think is a better word, other people, right? We should support these people. We should help them and figure out how they're going to like be a part of it, or encourage them to do something different, you know, in a positive
100%.
way. Yeah.
I love that. I want to transition a little bit, but still talking about your career. I said in the beginning, and you talked about it, standing out. That was something that I think you did really, really well. People knew who Matt was. People respected you. People respected your results. I know lots of people that I talked to that said, hey, I want to go work at Matt's branch when you were a branch manager. Wow. Yeah, these are all things I heard. Of course, man. Of course. And I guess my first question related to standing out is like, how did you do that? What was your formula to stand out at work? Did you have a mantra you repeated to yourself, something you focused on? Like, what was your go-to?
I think it ties back to something you mentioned earlier, where if you feel like you didn't fit in, you know what I'm saying? I was just going to be what I was just going to be me, and I was just going to do what I was going to do. Right. And in fact, when I felt like I couldn't consistently continue to do that, it was at that time for me to move on, actually. So when I like, if I can't just be who I'm going to be, you know, you can't do whatever you want to do on someone else's time, you know, using their resources and so forth. But I really tried to align my, you know, message and vision and so forth with who we were helping and how to stand out. I really believe something. God, I blogged about it. I think I took it down. Maybe I'll put it back up. But I noticed that there was a different type of this presence people would talk about, and it was encouraged to me to have this executive presence. Try though I did, I don't ever really believe that I felt that I had that. I was like, well, I got something else. I think it's an entrepreneurial presence, because I solve problems like a small business owner inside of these four walls. I'd be like, well, I'm not going to do what these guys are going to do. I mean, the results will come out. I'll manage the vision. I'm just going to do it my own way. And I was successful to the extent that I was. How else to stand out? I will tell you one thing I deliberately did. And I'd encourage any listener of the Introvert podcast, which is wonderful, by the way, the Introvert Leader.
Thank you.
Yeah. If you're an introvert leader and you're trying to figure out, like, how do I stand out, use Austin's playbook. But if you need to add a page, borrow from mine. I couldn't get FaceTime with these executives, especially the ones that I appreciated. I'm like, God, I want to get 5 minutes of that person's time.
Yeah.
I want to make an impact or a difference or display how I might be different one day. So I started inviting people to my building. And every time I met someone in a meeting, I'd be like, hey, you should come check me out. I'm over here. Just come check me out.
No way.
And I craved feedback and I wanted it so bad. And not often from my direct manager, right? I'm like, someone who I more aspired to be like, I wanted to see how they thought. So sure enough, after asking, I think it was like 100 people, like, come pay us a visit, come check us out. We think we run a good show. You're going to, I wasn't there and it went horrible. It was absolute, a dive bomb, an absolute abysmal failure by every measure.
Gosh.
Yeah, you put up 10 things that they're going to measure this visit by. All 10 of them were flawed, like F status. And I got lit up. Called the people, each of them separately, who just kind of stopped in to say, hey, let's take Holmes up on this thing. Let's drop in. And I was like, I want this to be the best thing that ever happened to me. I don't know how that's going to go, but can you please be as very upfront with me as possible? And I trusted the feedback source, so I really valued the information from these people. If it was someone else, I don't know if I would have called them. I would have asked, but I don't know if I would have begged. And I was like, no, please tell me what you saw. That moment alone, I think, kind of endeared me to those people. They ended up being, I think, decision makers later. But nonetheless, I was provided the feedback to get the next opportunity. And it helped me. And that opportunity kind of was a springboard to the next thing. So that is something I encourage you to do. If you want to stand out, what can you control? I could casually, happily ask someone in a charming way and be like, hey, if you're in the area, drop on by. Sure enough, someone said, yes, man. So control that.
I could take so many little lessons away from that, but like if I had to distill it, the big ones I took away are like take action, right? So like you asked people, you took action, you stayed consistent, and then also like not shying away from feedback once a bad situation happens. Because a lot of people, I mean, I know a ton of people, they don't ask for feedback. They don't like to give feedback. It's like, I'm just going to do me. And I hope that's sufficient. But I am such a big believer of like, if you're asking for feedback and if you ask the right people enough, you're going to get the feedback that you need. And that's going to help you move on to the next thing, right?
It was probably, for me, as I mentioned earlier, like I was so resistant to it. I knew I was going to take it personally. So I was like, man, you got to put yourself through this moment. You know, you're going to overreact. You're going to overthink it. And I wasn't even there. It was a day off.
Makes it worse. Yeah.
But that is a true testament of, is what is being built by the leader sustainable if it runs, you know, like we know, if they're not in the building. So, yeah, I would encourage people to do that.
Love it. Okay. Moving on. You kind of hinted about it. You said ultimately you left the corporate world, right? Obviously you're not working there anymore.
Sure.
Would you say that the reason that ultimately you decided to leave is that you just didn't feel like there was a culture fit, or what would you say was the big ultimate thing that said, okay, I need to go out on my own. I'm ready to leave?
I would say that there had been kind of, yes, an accumulation kind of like of, you know, I don't know if I kind of align with like who we need to be, how we're talking to people, which to me is really important. I think words matter. What we say to ourselves matter. What we say to others is really critical, right? You know, I'm like, I didn't really see, it was hard for me to construct a future, right? And I'm like, I didn't want my boss's job. I was sure of that at some point. I was like, oh no, hot dang, I ain't doing that.
Oh.
and I didn't want like, you know, the previous person that I'd kind of like worked for. And then I thought about my mentor and how it went for them. And like everybody that I kind of looked up to was either in a different situation, like they'd also done something that was escapist, or, you know, was someone I didn't aspire to be like or become. And then I looked at the attributes and skill sets that those people held, and I'm like, I don't want to acquire any of those attributes. I was like, I don't want to acquire any of those skills, right? So I like the way that I lead. It's from the heart. It's just open and honest. It focuses on the objective truth, right? With your buy-in, or if we need to talk about something difficult. But I think it was just environmental. So then I'm like, well, shit. Do I like how it is now? And then there was a moment where like I kind of had to choose to do something, and it was going to be how I was going to do it or how someone else was going to do it. And I said, I'm going to do it this way. This is a difficult conversation. There was someone, for lack of a better word, that I was going to go have to motivate in a positive way to do better.
Sure.
And to me, and the person's I think spouse or significant other was going through a potentially terminal illness. So I'm going to go talk to this person. I'm going to go do it. I'm going to go speak to them face to face. They're going to be able to take the measure of like, yeah, what I'm going to say, how I mean it, the intent behind it. I'm going to go down there. And I was like,
show your care. Yeah.
Yeah. I was disallowed to go in person, and it's 2 hours away. I was like, absolutely not.
What?
So I'm like, that just seems strange. So it was this kind of a call where I'm like, you know, this isn't something I'm going to do on Zoom. I'm going to do this in person. I'm going to go shake this person's hand. I'm going to wish them well. I'm going to bring a card and then ask them like, which way do you want to go? Because if you go down this way, it's going to end in a dead end, or you can go a different way and I can help you in any way you want. Right. So That was kind of like this one moment, if I kind of distill it down to that.
Wow.
But it was more culture than anything, and I started to
Yeah.
like not feel like I identified. I'm like, I don't feel like I'm a player on this team anymore. So
Wow.
yeah,
And so this was height of COVID when you ultimately decide to leave, right? 2021.
that's
And
right.
I guess you knew you needed to leave, right? You knew maybe culturally it wasn't a fit, but what made you decide to go and start a business as opposed to just maybe going and working at another bank? Like, I guess I want to get into entrepreneurship. Did you have an early memory of entrepreneurship? Did someone in your family was an entrepreneur before that?
The goal was to do that for 20 years. Danielle, my wife, and I, we sat down and we determined like a plan. And you do your best. You just be optimistic and do everything you can to make the plan the best plan for you, and checkpoints, mile markers along the way. And it doesn't go exactly as you thought, but you pivot, you redirect. So we had this 20-year plan, right?
Sure.
1, 3, 5, 10. I encourage everybody to be goal oriented. I hope to be able to talk about fears later and
Yes.
how to work to overcome those. But so the plan was this 20-year plan. And then, yeah, when this, I would say this moment where I'm like, what am I meant to do? Can I be who I want to be, or do I have to be someone different? And I tried, right? And that didn't go well.
No.
Because you could just be who you are. Then we're like, well, let's just accelerate this plan. This plan was a couple years out. Let's just accelerate that. Couple other comments that I'll make is the way I did it is actually not the way I would recommend. I was fortunate to like have built some safeguards and safety nets. Like I said, like sew a parachute. You never know when you're gonna need a jump. But I actually think that what I wish I could have told myself 20 years back was build a bridge. Start today. Build an audience. Practice something on the side. You know what I'm saying? Before you go all in, you want to be really sure that like this thing is like has a sustainable business model. You know what I'm saying? Is something you actually love doing, and you don't mind asking people for money for it. Because remember we talked about that.
That's big.
Yeah. Are you okay saying, hey, I need you to pay your bill? Are you
Yeah.
okay? If not, that business isn't going to go well. So, I would encourage anyone to actually not do what I did, but at all. I'm dead serious. But it accelerated a plan. And then my wife and I believed that we would go into entrepreneurship, and she was from a family of entrepreneurs. And
okay.
risk-taking made sense to us, and we had successfully made it through some risks that we took, and I do recommend taking risks in life, and
For sure.
we'll get a chance to talk about that. So how to go into entrepreneurship. I had that entrepreneurial presence I mentioned earlier, and I was able to articulate that. And then I just needed a format to be able to do it, I think, was what I was looking for. So I think
that
that's
makes
kind of
sense.
how that happened, that transition area a couple years back. And you mentioned during COVID, I think COVID was just an accelerant. COVID was just like fuel you throw on a fire for a lot of people. It makes you like clarify, do I want this or do I want something else? And I think I was just no different than anyone in that way.
It caused us all to slow down and to take stock of what mattered. People reevaluated their careers, their relationships, their health. Like, I mean, obviously that was a really tough time in the country and around the world. But I mean, I think I'm an eternal optimist. So like, I can definitely pick out some moments about COVID and say, while overall it just crappy sucked, there were some moments that helped me in my career or helped you in your career. So I think we're very, very similar like that. I guess I want to ask a question about actually kind of going into entrepreneurship and starting that and the challenges. So you had worked at a big company. They gave you the rule book. They gave you the formula. They told you how to win. They had, we were detailed folks working at Bank of America. They told you who to call, when to call, how to call, everything. So then you go to something totally different where no one is telling you what to do. You have complete control over how you spend your time and your day. Like, what was the biggest challenge that you noticed going from corporate world to entrepreneurship?
The biggest challenge. Wow. That is a big question, Austin.
Yeah. I know you could take it a lot of different directions. I know.
The ones that come to me, the challenge is really like, and I've mentioned it, hit on it once or twice, but I'm going to keep doing it because if you got introvert leaders out there who are considering this type of thing, I want them to obsess about this topic, and I'm serious, right? I call my company Launchguide to help people launch, right? Like, I want you to think about this stuff. So it's really about, do you have an idea or do you have a business? That was a challenge, right? And so a quick dive into mine, like I started my company was called Work Life. And I'm like, I'm going to attract this group of people that's going to resonate with. And it didn't. It went over like a lead balloon, right? And because it spoke to me, it was personal, deeply personal for me. I loved it. It was like, my baby or something like this.
Yeah.
I was so super happy about it, but it didn't adequately convey who I was trying to help.
Got it.
It didn't really help like understand what we do. It didn't really help understand how I was going to do that. Launchguide, at least to some extent, marginally helps, people kind of understand how they might want to interact with me or our team or something like that.
Oh, for sure.
So, yeah, to some extent, like, okay. So I guess to put a fine point on it, you said, what were some of the challenges? I think, ensuring that you have a proven business model where the revenue is clear, how you're going to make money. And then I ask business owners 5 things as an advisor in this advisory consulting type role that I have at times. And they're really these ones. And they're ones I would desperately ask anyone to consider.
Ooh, I want to hear these.
Yeah. All right. There's 5. 5 same questions, 5 questions all the time. What's your business model? Someone who cannot articulate their business model, that business is DOA. Is dead on arrival. Yeah. There's about 12 or 13, are you going to be a wholesaler? Great. Let's dive into how that's going to look. Are you going to be a retailer? Are you a service-based business? Solopreneur? Those type of things. They have to be able to break it down to some sense. They need to evaluate the risks, right? Mm-hmm. Do you understand the strategic risks of the company that you're trying to create? How do you scale? This eludes a lot of people. Like, even a business that has all these incredible things about it, at some point, sometimes you're still just trading time for money. And that'll put a bottleneck on your ability to scale, right? How do you have it make money when you're asleep? All these things that we see online. Well, there are some ways to do that.
For sure.
What's your burn rate? So like, how long can you do this? At what pace? How long of a lifeline have you created essentially? Or does it start off on its face? Buying a business can help people with that.
For sure.
Yeah. Or using a proven test. And lastly, what's your exit strategy? Like, what are you trying to do? Is this a retirement plan for you? Is this, I wanted to get new skills. I wanted to do things that I loved where like I was in this high yield, low resistance flow state, like it all the time, doing things I like doing. So that's what I wanted to do. But, how long do you want to do it? Do you believe you're going to sell it? Cause that's probably not going to be likely. And then how do you create a retirement or build a bridge to that next phase? Right. So,
ooh, dude, those questions are fantastic. How did you come up with those? Did you just spend time, searching all the content you consume, or how did you come up with those?
Repeated failure.
Yeah.
Repeated not listening.
Yeah.
Letting people who cared about me, the marketplace, customers, past clients, people in adjacent spaces give me information that I rejected. None of this absolutely matters. And then some discussions with some trusted friends. A couple of those. One of them, I think on the day I went private, I called my buddy and I'm telling him, and he's like, first question he asks is like, what's your business model? And I was like, well, hot damn, dude.
Yeah, coming in hot. Give me a minute. It's been like 6 hours.
Dead serious. That's really how it unfolded. And
so, gosh.
This person in my life that I care about, that's also a business owner, challenged me to think a little bit differently, and we kind of boiled them down to those are 5 critical ones. They're really high level. They're really zoomed out, but they can help anyone kind of frame like what they're looking to do.
I love that. And honestly, man, like for a lot of folks that want to start businesses, because I interact with people all the time that want to say, hey, you started this business, Austin, how did you do it? And I think it does come down to like getting really clear beforehand. Like there's the famous saying, start with the end in mind. I think that's so important. It's such a simple concept, but like, what does the end look like? Don't just think about, I want to start this business. What is it going to look like in 10 years? What is it going to look like in 20 years? How are you going to spend your days? Are you going to be spending your time on administration tasks? Are you going to be high level, creative, whatever it is? So I think those are fantastic questions. I have one question for you though. My last question around entrepreneurship. This is a toughie. Okay, tomorrow you get a job offer from a large company. It's like your dream company, Matt. It's the best company you've ever interacted with. You love this company. And they say, hey, we want to hire you, and we want to hire you for some ridiculously good salary. So it's a good company, it's a good culture, and it's a high salary. Would you take it?
Okay.
I love this. 2
years ago and about a month or 2 back, right?
Okay.
I got asked this question. Because I was a new aspiring entrepreneur. You don't really know if you're going to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
You got to say aspiring until you do something. Right? So
yeah, that's true.
You're aspiring for quite a bit of time. Right? So I'm aspiring, and I joined some networking groups, and I had a buddy ask me this. Well, and just to be exposed to around other business owners, I'm like, go immerse yourself. It's the fastest way to learn, and you get feedback and all these things. So he asked me this. I was like, no. Nah, hell, no, absolutely.
I got my principles. No,
absolutely, because I am. Yeah, I'm just in my mind. I'm some principled person.
Yeah,
but, no, it's it like everything. Life has taught me like no, you actually never say never. And our viewpoint, mine, the one that my wife and I shares, W-2 employment is actually no different than entrepreneurship. It's actually no different than a potential real estate deal, right? And you recently moved, right? From New York, you moved to Arizona. Yep. Congrats, by the way.
Thank you.
So like that's an opportunity, right? And an investment is an opportunity. Ownership is an opportunity. So I would just evaluate the same way that I always do. I'd go like literally put it through those same 5 questions, right? Do I like the model? What are the risks? How do I scale it? You know, those things. So, I'd consider anything. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'll tell you this. I'll probably never, I don't think if I said never, I just said never say never, but I think that's what I say would be, I think I'll always kind of keep the license. You know what I mean? So if that happened, or if I changed companies, if we did something else, went on a new venture, my boys like it. My kids think it's cool, you know?
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of help and support out there. Trust me, I tried to volunteer for, work for, help, support, be aligned with, do brand deals with other people that are trying to support the business community. They're not great. I'd like the Launchguide would continue to be able to do that like long after my passing. So,
ooh,
yeah, man.
I love that.
Absolutely.
Great answer. And you brought up Launchguide, so perfect transition. That's what I want to talk about. So it was, gosh, I feel like it was almost 10 months ago or 8 months ago. You're on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn. We hadn't talked for, I don't know, maybe 8, 9 years. It feels like it had been a while.
Yes.
Yeah. But I had always, you know, this might sound creepy, but I had always kind of, I don't want to say LinkedIn stalked you, but there was a little bit of LinkedIn stuff. I was wondering what you're up to. I was following your journey. Cool. And then randomly one day you reach out. Oh, okay.
Yeah, you just want to know
cool.
people you care about that you had an interaction with that for some reason was special. You just want to be sure, like, are they good? Can I help them? Can they help me? You know, like, like, what are they doing? Can I learn? Yeah, I'm with you. You just have a curious mindset. Exactly.
100%. Exactly. Oh, I like that. So it's not creepy. It's curious. We're going to rebrand that right there. Done. So, 10 months ago you reach out, I think just to kind of reconnect. And it's funny for the 2 months before that, I had been thinking, gosh, I need help with a website and I need help to launch this career coaching business. I had the podcast, but I knew that I wanted to start a career coaching business. So you reach out, it's like the universe pulled us together. Sure. We started working together. And you were able to obviously do some amazing things that I want to get into. So I guess the first question is, like, what is Launchguide and what's the problem that you help solve for customers?
Making more money. I'm dead serious. I'm going to go down a path here in a second. I hope I can get to it where I kind of talk about how it's iterative. Life is, right? If you think a business is going to be some straight line, I think you are sadly mistaken. I think life, like everything, business ownership, learning is like a series of like these mental like expansions and contractions, right? You blow your mind and then you kind of like reduce it down to the thing you're going to do. Like, sorry, you said, what was the what was it that brought Launchguide? What do we do? How do we help people? I did mention that, like, I'll tell you, I don't think I like started Launchguide. I'm telling you, I like had to reject a different previous experiment.
Interesting.
And it manifested like a flame. One day I woke up and I was so clear on what I wanted to do, how to say it. And it just kind of came to me. And I had been getting all these projects to help business owners make more money with their marketing, right? Essentially. Sure. And I fell into kind of a PM type role with a couple different freelancers. And I'm like, all right, I think I can put a business around this. Right.
That's cool.
So, yeah, I wanted to just coach and help people. But for me, I had a difficult time adding more value beyond that. And for me, a block that I have till this day is I couldn't charge money for something I gave away for free for so long. Literally my entire life. It's difficult. Yeah. So kudos to people that can do it. So I'm like, okay, I want to help businesses. That does come from a place in my past, right? Wanted to help my family become like not employees, but more like owners and things, have this generational wealth kind of creation type thing. And I just knew that the only thing when I evaluated myself after a couple months of being private and my interactions, what people wanted to pay me for was to help make more money with their marketing. So we completely just pivoted to that. And it kind of provides a shell to do everything else that I want to do and help people with as well.
Oh, that's true.
In that way.
You're right. It does. Yeah.
I want to meet with people. I want to validate their business ideas or be the gentle voice that says, this isn't going to go well. You know, if you do it, use these safeguards. You know what I'm saying? Or this is going to go great, but here's what you need to do. And I kind of missed a calling, if you will. I took a 23-year detour to doing design-related things. I was a graphic designer in high school. Thought I was
no way.
Do that. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, yeah, it's all I did. I was obsessed with it. Photography.
This is crazy. I did not know this.
Yeah, I
Wow.
can draw like a crazy person. I have just
Wow.
a knack for it to be able to do that. And I said that to my parents, I think, who were just trying to help me and shield me and protect me. And we're have full agency, self-sovereignty. We make all our own decisions. But I think they heard, you want to be a graphic artist. They heard me say I want to do that. I think they spit that back to me as, oh, you might want to be an architect then.
Oh, interesting.
So and they're trying to help me, even to my boys to this day. They're like, I want to go into art. I'm like, well, that's great.
Yeah.
What are you going to do Monday through Friday? You know, like, you want,
Yeah.
you want to
Yeah. How are you going to pay the bills?
That's it. Just look at it objectively, and then maybe you'll be fine, but have a plan.
Sure.
So long story short, I didn't go do that. I went to architecture school, and on the first day, sitting in the first 30 seconds, I was like, I can't do this. And
I'm out.
I absolutely. I called my dad 6 months later. I told my mom.
Oh my
like,
gosh.
I think my mom saw it coming from a mile away, and my dad's like, "What do you mean?" And so 23 years later, I'm kind of doing what I had kind of set out to do at one point, which was in sales and marketing,
That
design related.
is crazy.
Yeah, websites kind of, once someone kind of taught me about them, like a vocabulary, like we went through those 5 questions I asked business owners. This person, and that's a vocabulary to frame up what you want to do. This person gave me a vocabulary around digital marketing and how to turn your eye for design and your knack for creativity into a way that you can help business owners and live this dream type of thing. So that's kind of how it happened.
Wow. Okay. I had no idea you had a graphic design background. And it kind of makes sense though, like as your role as the creative director, founder of this business, I mean, you literally get to help shape these ideas, these infant, stages of infant ideas in people's brains. Oh, I want to start a business. You help them actually put it on paper, put it into reality. And guys, shameless plug for Matt. He created my website, and I get constantly tons of feedback that say it's clean, it's sleek, it's modern. So like, kudos to you, man. Obviously you're doing what you were meant to do. It seems obvious to me,
It's cool. And if it was something different, great. But I'm still going to do it in this way. I'm going to have people consider like, hey, what are the pros and cons? Let's like evaluate. Let's go through the processes like that we excelled at probably in our time, like with the company, right? Which was like, how do we put structure on that? How do you get results that are sustainable? How do you do it ethically? How do you do it at a high pace level? I think like, yeah, I'll always be doing that. That's like breathing, I think, for us, right? So,
Yeah, it comes naturally, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I want to ask you this. Can you share, if you think back about the journey that you've had so far with Launchguide, you obviously helped some cool clients.
Sure.
I might be your coolest client. I don't want to say that, but I'm going to say it.
No. Yeah, man. And by the way, we were excited about your site, and a lot of help went into that. And I'm like,
Thank you.
I was like, this could come out really well. I'm not going to get too excited, but I think we were talking the other day, and I was like,
yes,
I think it could come out pretty well. So anyway, sorry, you were saying.
Yeah. I love it. So thinking back about the journey at Launchguide, can you share maybe a moment that you're most proud of? Something that happened, a success story, something that really stands out that you're like, wow, this felt really, really good.
Yes, I have 2. And one was, and I don't know where I would be with like, I think one of them I had an NDA, can't remember on the other one. Mm-hmm. So let's say I don't like name drops on brand names.
Yeah,
right. But
for sure.
One of them was a local, a cool moment for me. A really awesome one was a couple come to mind, but a local organization that is doing like the good work in the world.
Got it.
Right? That's like helping people, is there for like families, kids, disabled. I was so proud. I consult with them from time to time. It was about a 9-month relationship. We accomplished all the objectives we set out to at the start, which is good. Sometimes that doesn't happen. Sometimes in marketing, it doesn't go as you plan. But I really think that we were able to help this kind of family legacy endure. Like I envision that they'll be around for they've been around for about 100 years. They'll be around for about another 100 years. And I was able to help in some small way. Right. And so that was a cool one.
That's big.
I remember my first product, right? Most of the people that I was able to kind of help or that would, maybe made sense to work together on were services. And that's a skill set of mine. We were both in services before being independent, right? Professional services. So my first product was awesome. I loved repping this product. And we're not in any relationship together today, but at the time I was like, this is the dopest shit I've ever done. It's like so happy to consult on their brand identity, their brand architecture, their color palette, the language that we used in their in their text, their copy, their captions, the phenomenal imagery that we were able to use to kind of advertise this brand. Those are some. So they're just really personal for me. So
Yeah.
I hope it answers your question, but those are two
For sure.
stand out.
I love it. And if, again, boiling it down, you were able to make a big impact and able to see some results. I mean, I think that's probably why you're most proud. You're able to make an impact, right?
That, and like, yeah, when you set out what you want to do and like in a marketplace with an ocean of competitors and you're in some cases horrendously outgunned by like budget and like staff, and it's me and this other business owner and they're the CEO of their vision and I'm just there getting to help them. Bro, this one other one, one time, this was a search engine optimization success story. We got someone to page one.
And what percentage of sales happen on page one?
As our research conducts, it's 87%. And
there it is.
To everybody else that wants to share, pages 2 through X, right, with the rest with about 13%, 87% of sales made on page one of Google. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
So we got her to page one, and so she was in a business where there was 51 competitors in surrounding. We dropped a pin, drew like a 10 km radius around it. 51, I think, 50 plus competitors in that radius, and we got her to page one in 23 days.
Wow.
Yeah. So it can be. Sometimes it's actually insignificant. You got people that crush it without a business license. You can have people that they don't even use a website. They can crush it on Instagram. Like they got a Facebook page.
For sure.
Sometimes what we do can't help someone, or they don't need it. But this was able to help this person in a good way.
So. Oh, okay. You answered my question perfectly. So looking forward to the future, something you and we're very similar. We're always thinking about the future. What gets you most excited about the future of Launchguide?
Growth towards more of just a media company. I have a personal opinion. I think I share it with a lot of people, and I think I share it with regardless on like what side of the aisle someone might be on, which is that there's a lot of like bias. And there can be a lot of bias in news. There can be some censorship. I'd like to help eliminate those things. I'd like to do whatever I can in my lifetime to be sure that, that First Amendment, that free speech is protected. So I've put up a couple of different, resources that we can leverage for our clients potentially as we go forward in terms of radio, and then one in terms of reporting the news. So they were side projects. Now they're just sites, but they're a smallest version of what I can do today to help grow. So as we continue being more of a media company, that's the growth path for Launchguide. The only other direction it ever takes is if we there's a scenario where Danielle and I turn it into like a not-for-profit or a social purpose company, where it's just there and we're supported by volunteers, and maybe I'm no longer part of it at all. I don't know, and it just continues to try to help, because again, I looked at every single avenue when I went private to get help, offer help, consult, mentor. And a lot of them are just hot garbage. They're just really not. Oh, yeah. They're not current and contemporary with 2024 and what business owners, fledgling or aspiring business owners, need to be able to hear today and the support they need. And I'd like to do that different and better. And I don't know if it can. I don't know if you can. I'd like to think you can have it be profitable, but that might not be true. We might have to run it as a different type of company. So that's another. I
totally see what you're saying too, and I feel like it boils down to helping people. I feel like that's something that's always been really kind of center, at least from what I've observed with you. I mean, your leadership style back in the day, how you helped me and other businesses. So I guess I want to transition now a little bit and go into leadership, because I think that is something that you are fantastic at. You made a career being a leader. And I guess the first question is did you always have a passion to be a leader? Because I remember looking at your kind of background. You were in the branch world in consumer banking, and you had been an individual contributor, but then you obviously took that leap into, I think it was like an assistant manager role. Sure. So I guess I'm curious, had you always had a passion for leadership, or did you just kind of fall into it like I did?
I did have a passion for it. It's like a strong commitment to our upbringings. I think being this peacemaker or something like that. If I'm in charge, I can always keep the peace. I can keep so-and-so in my family from fighting with the other. And then I really got committed to facts and I don't know what's that quote where they say, I don't really care who's right. It's more about what's right. And
yes, yeah.
Such an objective commitment to that I'm like, well, if I can be the loudest person in the room, if I can stand out, if I can get some of the seat at the table, if I can get some of the microphone time, then I can help be sure that that what gets out. And I take it horribly personally when I'm the wrong side of that, when I'm on the wrong side of something. I'm like, damn. But at the end, you got to surrender and be like, acquiesce. The best thing is going to happen for the group. I've always wanted that. So I think that passion there, I was afforded some other leadership opportunities as, I think in my preteens, preteens.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, one or two. And I kind of liked that. And it terrified me.
Mm-hmm.
It made me unsure of myself. It made me evaluate what I was going to say and how I was going to say it to like no end. I became a writer because of that. Like, you know, as you can see. No way. Yeah. But I kept doing it like with this consistent or persistence to putting myself into things that were challenging and terrifying and frightening and to try to overcome them. And I think that is what people look for. One of a few characteristics that I look for in a leader for sure. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yeah.
Totally. Well, and it's funny. I think I'm very similar to you in that state, in that like leadership at the beginning actually kind of scared the shit out of me. Cause like I'm an introvert and I don't like to be the center of attention. I don't like people looking at me or talking about me. I am just like fly under the radar. I know you probably wouldn't guess that now. Listeners wouldn't guess that because I have a podcast and I'm on LinkedIn, but that's what it was at first. But I feel like in pursuing something that was really, really hard, something that got me out of my comfort zone, it made me a better leader. People could see that I was trying. They knew I was an introvert and I didn't necessarily love that kind of stuff, but I was doing it. It sounds like you were kind of similar. Like it caused you to work on the areas of your life that maybe you weren't as confident and kind of get out of that comfort zone a little bit, right?
Yeah, 100%. I think that was most of where like, you know, the baggage that we bring to work was for me. It's like sometimes I could do the job like excessively easily. There were some parts of the jobs, we had many in common, where like I couldn't do them. I was horribly bad. I was like the worst, and I failed so many times. Like I got this accounting book over here that I keep from my time because, let's see, in order, I failed accounting this one course. I dropped out. W, straight withdraw, and then I finally got a C plus, and I kept the book as like
hey, we got the C plus.
Absolutely, man. Like, you know, I felt like there were things that didn't come naturally to me that did to other people that I had to try 10 times harder for, but when you keep stepping up, you keep doing them. But yeah, the thing I thought about a lot of was, you know, how do I come off? And I was, you know, the moment I was told about this executive presence, I just thought I had it, sometimes thought I didn't, and I was kind of like, I don't even know, maybe I do or don't, but I don't need it. I have something different, and that's what I'm going to offer, right? You know, but that was born out of a pure, like what felt like a lifetime of insecurities about that topic. You know what I'm saying? So we're driven by our insecurities. We're motivated by them.
For sure.
Yeah.
Oh, I love what you said about the executive presence. I felt the same way. Like it almost felt, and for those of listeners who don't know what executive presence is, it was a term that was thrown around at our company, and I've heard it at many other companies. But essentially, it's the act of portraying yourself as an executive, more maybe stoic. You're knowing how to play the political game. You're saying the right things that people want you to say at the right times. And while I think for some people, executive presence is a good way to start realizing how to separate themselves and not just look like an individual contributor and maybe get some more respect, but I also feel like some people use that as a way to separate themselves from caring or separate themselves from doing the right thing because it was all about how I appeared and what people thought. And I was the same way, man. Like I thought to myself at some point, I don't really care about executive presence. Like I'm going to be me. And if you like it, fantastic. If you don't like it, then maybe it just wasn't the right culture for me. And I'm not everybody's cup of tea. And I feel like you're exactly the same way.
I think 100%. We might have a whole bunch of differences that we've never discussed, but it is easy to like align and come together on our similarities. Yeah. Tell me if you didn't identify with like the CEO more sometimes than you did the middle manager. So tell me, right? But like sometimes you'd go into a meeting, you'd be on a conference call, be like, that's not what I heard.
No,
that's not okay. If you're saying it, that's fine. But like, you know, hey, I heard something else, and it was easier probably for you to see like a strategic vision. For me, mine was like being able to articulate what I was thinking or saying. I'm like, how do I really boil that down? And I just have to do it the way that I'm going to do it, man. It's never going to sound like somebody else.
No,
you know, I'm not great at speaking in bullets. As this, I think my time on your podcast shows like I just kind of let it rip, man. But anyway. I do think that's what makes for great executives. It's funny because sometimes there's the ability to distill it, which I'm going to attribute that word choice to you today, but there's also ability to like be able to describe it with as much specificity as possible. That's vision setting.
Yes. Okay, I want to transition completely. You brought up your wife Danielle and your 4 kiddos, so I want to get a little bit better understanding of like what Matt spends his time outside of Launchguide, outside of work. So,
Right.
first off, you're from Washington State. Is that where you grew up? And then next question is best memory of childhood. I'm asking tough questions. I know.
They're
I'm
good,
asking you
man.
to pull everything in.
And I should have seen them coming, but man, no. So from Washington State.
Yep.
So I'm as from here as anyone, and I dare anyone to challenge me in an actual intellectual debate on that, right? But so I was technically born in Seattle.
Okay.
Military parents. Both my
Got
parents
it.
are both. So when both your parents are in the service, you travel with your family.
Yep.
So I guess we lived here for like 3 weeks before going on some 14 stop journey where at one point I had lived more of my life outside the U.S. than I had inside the U.S.
No way.
At
I
one
didn't
point,
know this.
the slight majority was, I was like, I
Yeah.
came back to the States. I'm like, yeah, States are pretty cool, but I'm this like citizen of the world now. I'm, thinking,
I'm worldly, baby.
yeah, it's great delusions of grandeur. But so that was kind of like my childhood. So then, but then when my family and I, as a kid, moved back here, it was the first place that ever felt like home. And I tried to go somewhere else. I even tried to go to school at a different out of state, and I couldn't explain it, but I literally felt, looking back, the feeling I was terrified of was being homesick, and I didn't know then that I was so family oriented and going to be such a homebody, and that's exactly how I am today. So let's see, favorite memory. I have this one that comes up where, Austin, I don't know if it's my favorite memory, man, but it's one that really stands out. And
Yeah.
I think I'd like to share.
I'll take it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Because for the longest time, this memory, like, I obsessed over it. So I had the worst day of my life. Absolute worst day. It was the worst day. But something happened. It was horrible. I started to like learn lessons from it, and I started to like pull some positivity out of it. And I tried to, and then a couple years went by, and I was like, damn, the mind will not let you live in this way. Like, you have to go back and reconcile it. You can't have a permanent like worst day. So my mind, I made it out to be this best day. It was a very special memory of just somewhere we were at where everything went wrong, and it was it's very close to my brother. I think my dad was there and stuff like that. It's now, I guess, I still consider it my favorite memory because of these life lessons that I took and the choice to become an optimist. So even
Interesting.
like how bad this thing happened. Like, you have to make choices. And that day I decided, I remember I was 13, that happiness is a choice.
Yes.
Right? Satisfaction, contentment. You might have to work at that. You might have to like go through a life and like, I mean, I hate this cliche, but like level up, or you might have to figure out what you want to do. Yeah. Or change your contentment or satisfaction or and so forth. But happiness, you can wake up every day and choose to be happy. So
yes,
that's why that's my memory. So.
Oh, I could not agree more with what you just said. And I am such a believer of like mindset. And I believe, you can make anything feel really bad. You could make stubbing your toe. That could ruin your whole day. You could act like that was the worst thing. You could think about it all day and how much it hurt and how it's going to be bruised. Or you could stub your toe and be like, that sucked, but like, it's not going to ruin my day. Like, I'm going to go out and go on a run now, and that's going to be fun. So I'm like, I love that you said that. And I think like for folks listening, like the way you approach situations, do you view it as negative? Do you view it as positive? That's really what it comes down to. And even if you grew up with really negative parents, luckily I grew up with super positive parents. And so that, they instilled that, but my wife didn't necessarily, her parents weren't as more positive. And so she's had to work at that, but I can see the change in her over the years of being able to just approach situations positively. And it gets you just so much further, I guess is how I would, sum it up. Right.
I think you said it better than I could. And then in terms of like family and doing, I thought in my 20s, I thought I would be a family-oriented person. I actually had believed mistakenly. You asked about things that didn't turn out to be true. I thought I'd be this a young parent or like a young father, and I wasn't. And all of a sudden, my late 20s started coming up. I'm like, man, I guess this is not going to happen for me. And literally 6 months later, after I like made my peace with that and kind of accepted that and liked who I was in spite of it still, 6 months to the day, like I met Danielle. Like, she just like
get out.
I'm serious. It was like yeah, when you're ready to receive, when you're ready for something for it to be in your life, whatever that is, that's sometimes when you're able to observe it or notice it or witness it or something or have it kind of make its way in, I think. So,
I'd argue not even sometimes. I would argue almost every single time in my life that I have stopped resisting something, embraced the situation, embraced who I was, embraced the scenario. Those things fall in your lap. The new job falls in your lap, the relationship, the big raise that you've been wanting. It's like, there's this saying, what you resist persists. And I'm such a believer of that. I don't know if you've heard that one, but I think it speaks perfectly to what you just said.
I love resistance. Those are some of my favorite words, and
Yeah.
I'm not sure I've ever heard it put exactly like that. So that's my new fave right now.
I love it. Okay. So Danielle, how long have you guys been married now? And give me like a little overview. What are the ages of the kiddos?
Sure. Okay. Danielle and I just hit 13 years. 14
Congratulations.
Yeah, 13 married. And a quick thing. I think we're fortunate. I hope that for everybody listening, this is something that everybody's able to experience, but I don't take this for granted. For us, getting married was like kind of confirmation bias. We're like, well, this is what we thought it was going to be like. It was like, man, this is great. We had our first kids. We're like, well, shit, that's exactly what we thought that was going to be like. So like, let's just do more of that. Like, so having our first, like, affirm that we definitely want to do that more. And we were more planful. We're lucky. A lot of people, things happen where you can't like plan or consider when families are started, and their path is different. So again, we come from a place of, I think, fortuitousness, if that's a word. We met at the bank of all places. I was there for an interview, and she had a supervisory role, and I was like, damn. Did the interview, somehow made it through the interview, and I went back to the my manager time. I was like, what about this Danielle person? What's that story? And it wasn't like the right time, I think. In a relationship. I was in a relationship. Yeah. We just stayed friends for like a couple years, and then hit each other up once a couple years later, and got married quick, and we just kind of know, I guess.
Yeah.
Trendy buzzword.
When you find that right person, right? You kind of know.
We were 99% sure, and then there's that fear that we sometimes have, like, do you want to try to overcome this fear, or do you want to run from it? And we both chose to like overcome. We supported each other in our banking careers, and then we were fortunate to have 4 kids, twin brothers, Hudson and Holton, and they are nothing alike. I love their differences and their idiosyncrasies. They're just turned 10. Harrison just turned 8 in July, and then Haley is like our miracle. Like 100% thought we're like
baby girl
done. Yes, baby girl. Danielle's happy when we're all happy anyway, but whatever, doesn't matter. But your life just kind of like she's just completes us, I think, in that way. Our family. So she's 3.
I love that.
Next month.
Oh, so she's a lot younger than the other ones.
She's gonna laugh at it, be like, I was this COVID baby, man. Like, a lot. 5 years separates her and Harrison, and like I said, we were like sure we were done, and
but you weren't.
Life has other plans, man, and they're great and they're wonderful, and like you said, like let it happen, like let it go, exist what's meant to be and stuff like that, and she's been the she completed our puzzle. So what do we do? We just like live at the YMCA. I think that's where everybody is at right now.
Yep.
So,
nice. I was going to ask you what you guys do for fun. Okay.
I like to jog. I'm not fast.
Yeah.
I don't go far. I don't go fast, but I just like to kind of connect with nature and kind of, it's almost meditative for me. So that's kind of my only thing. Other than that, we're just like ride bikes, man, and hike as a family.
Ooh. So ride bikes. I'm a big cycler. Are you road bike? You mountain bike? You a little bit of both? What's the vibe?
I think the bike that I got on a discount, I told you I'm a coupon clipper. It's from either OfferUp or something else. I would bet that it's one of these hybrid bikes that looks cool enough for someone like me that's an amateur to want to buy it, but I really couldn't place it. I think it's some like I don't know. I think it's a mountain bike, by definition.
Got it.
Yeah, with road
Got it.
tires, roadish type tires. So
Oh, sure. So it's like I have something called a gravel bike. It almost sounds very similar, where it's geared. You could kind of use it for almost both disciplines in a way. You know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's how my kids and I ride it. So, and then the last domino to fall will be: does Danielle get a bike? Does she actually decide to do this with us, or does she just take the time to herself on weekend mornings? I don't know, man.
Man, I can't convince my wife to get into biking. I don't know, and I don't want to call her out, but I don't think she had a bike when she grew up, and she grew up out of the country in Russia. They didn't have as much things growing up, so she didn't learn. Yeah, she didn't learn to ride a bike until maybe, I don't know, 13 or 14. And so I've been trying to get her to ride a bike, and she's not into it, man.
That's crazy different. That's the things that you appreciate, think about, but then how special it might be, but then it could also like frighten her. Like, I don't know, man.
For sure. Yeah. For sure. Okay. So you're on these bike rides, you're on these jogs. Are you listening to music? I want to transition and talk a little bit about music. What are you listening to when you're going out on these bike rides, these jogs?
An author I appreciate named John Acuff would call this a soundtrack. So I'm updating a soundtrack. It's just me. I've done it, where I'm at. This is kind of a neighborhood kind of carved out of the forest. It's not a wonderful network of sidewalks or street lamps. So when I'm out there, I have to be like ears kind of on the street is kind of my thing.
Sure. Safety.
Yeah, I'm doing, I listen to pods, right? I checked out the Inch for a Leader one time.
Nice.
Spotify. Yeah, that was cool. Yeah, I think it was one of your first like 3 or 4 episodes I did when I was jogging. I like anything inspirational. But more of anything I'll do a YouTube on how to acquire a skill. I want to learn something. So like last 2 weeks, I've been making cheese. Before that, I was learning how to grind and case my own sausages. Before that,
no way.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, got a story for you on like the DIY lifestyle that Danielle and I live. We try to DIY everything. We grow as many of our own vegetables as we can in our garden.
That's dope.
We hand make mayonnaise, hand make ranch. We made ketchup for a stretch, bro.
Dang.
Time, here's a story. I walk in the house one day and I'm like, well, hot damn, there's so many chemicals all over the place. There's like borax, there's something else out here. There's there's a cheese grater. And I'm in my mind, like, pack the kids. You got to move to Canada. Your wife is making meth, dude. I'm starting to I'm like, look at that. To find the word like non-extradition. I'm like, what does this even mean? Like, we have to get out of here, dude. She's going down a dark path, and it turns out, no, she was learning to make our own detergent. We make our own soaps.
Oh my gosh!
Detergent, yeah, absolutely. Everything that we possibly can. We haven't bought a loaf of bread, I think, in 3.5 years.
Get out of here, man! I did not know this.
Yeah.
This is crazy.
And make everything. Our fridges is lined with like bone broth, vegetable broth, chicken broth. We just try to do as much of that stuff and instill that in our kids. Salsas, jams. I can and pickle vegetables.
Ooh, okay.
I want to try cider. Like the next thing I'm gonna do. Is
Sure.
I want to press
some home brewing.
Yeah, like why not, right? Like why not? So
I love that.
I know. I looked at like $120 still to try to be able to craft an adult cocktail.
Yeah.
And Danielle was like, absolutely freaking not. That's not coming to our house. So anyway.
She's like, no. Yeah. And she's like, you're taking it too far, Matt. No. But you know what's funny? Like I've had my own journey with health and what I eat and put in my body, and I've started to realize over the last, I'll say 9 to 10 months, the value in eating single sourced ingredients, eating stuff that doesn't have seed oils. Like I'm kind of just realizing everything we eat has seed oils in it. Canola, sunflower oil, and all these things. Like our body doesn't work as well when we ingest this kind of stuff. If we eat just simple foods that we know where the ingredients are from, we function better. We're healthier. And, in turn, obviously our families are healthier too, right?
I might have a question for you on that, but I identify with you so hard right now. Through the month of January, Daniel, I've been doing like that kind of a Whole30 type of diet, which we
nice.
2 or 3 times. We generally live a life where we believe that if it lived the life, go ahead and consume it. If it lived a life,
yes,
as a general definition, right? No process.
Yes.
But what's interesting is one part of that that's really hitting home with me now. There was the no refined grains, but then there was the sugar.
Mm-hmm.
How much sugar until you start looking? I had no idea. I'm just going to be straight up with you. But yeah, the seed oils. I didn't realize like the potential impact and damage that could have, and then how prevalent it was.
Yeah,
I've never looked at a label trying to identify that in my life, so that hits home with me. So has that been like a lifelong thing, something that you and your spouse kind of picked up together, or?
Good question. I would say my wife has been always incredibly healthy, and and like I said, she's from Russia, and so growing up, they ate a diet mostly of, vegetables, obviously meats. Everything was homemade by her mom, and so they didn't, they couldn't necessarily afford to go out and eat at restaurants and buy a lot of packaged food. So she's always been that way. I haven't. We grew up eating, I would say processed foods, but I just realized as I hit like my 30s, like, man, I can't mess around as much and bounce back the next day. I can't drink a ton and feel good the next morning.
Right.
It's taking me down. So like, I'm trying to cut out alcohol. Like I haven't drank for, I don't know, 2 or 3 months. I'm trying to cut out any added sugar. Like my goal now is to like eat no added sugar. I only eat, fruits or honey. But I also give myself like that whole rule of like, if I can be good 80% of the time and 20% of the time, I'm not an animal. Like obviously sometimes I'll go and have pizza or we'll have a burger, stuff like that. But no, I think definitely my wife helps me in that way for sure. But I just really believe the fuel we put in our body and the workouts that we do, that's how we get better in our careers. Like I want more people to realize the correlation between those two. If your body is in a good place, if you're healthy, you have muscle in your body, you're going to be better at work, plain and simple,
Yeah, that's hitting home, especially right now.
Yeah.
It's like season of my life. So I appreciate that, having that in common with you too.
For sure. Okay, I want to wrap up, my friend. I want to talk a little bit about a challenge. Every time we do a podcast episode, I want to leave folks with one little thing, one simple thing that they can do over the next 2 weeks to get better, to become a better version of themselves in their career, as a husband, a wife, in their family life, whatever it is. So thinking kind of about your journey, putting it all together, what do you think is one thing you maybe could share with listeners that they could focus on for the next 2 weeks?
What I want to share, I think has been a definition of my life's journey. And so I think this is a great challenge. I hope, I think I had a chance to run it by you a bit the other day, but I every day set out to be like, a goal getter, right? A glory hound, right? A goal hound, I think was the word that I used. And that is a really positive way to live your life. And there's all kinds of ways to like hack your brain chemistry, positive dopamine release. And so I imagine anyone listening on to your show, like wherever they fall on that spectrum, they could identify with that, right? And I think that is a great path that 90% of the time is going to get you where you want to go. I think for 2 weeks, I would challenge listeners or viewers to look at, okay, I focus on these goals, I go down these paths, I challenge myself, and I'm positively motivated. I'd like you to think about the things that terrify you. I had this moment where I was giving a speech on goals, right? It was awesome. I was owning the room. I was crushing it. And literally middle of the speech, as I'm going through, I had this insight, this realization that like, I've led my life in pursuit of these goals, these milestones and markers, comparing. We talked about comparing when we opened, right? When you started your show, like, hey, we compare ourselves to others sometimes. I would say like, look within. As I'm giving this speech, I realized I've led my life going after these goals. And I paused and reflected, and mid-speech turned around and said, like, what if we instead led our life in pursuit of overcoming and conquering every single fear that we had? What if that was a life that we pursued? Proceed now to write down the top 10 things that mortify you, where like you will literally freeze on site to this thing, and go and take it out. If you can't overcome it, then use a modeling type of behavior where like accomplish something like it so that you can get a little bit more comfortable.
Wow.
I had a couple things that I carried with me through my entire life, Austin. One of them real quick, that is pertains to this relationship that I left in a bad place with someone that worked for me, right? Direct report. And I didn't like who I was in a moment that I managed. And it ultimately,
got it.
Yes. From that moment, right? When I felt like I wasn't there for them. I wasn't there, the leader they needed. I was somebody else and I wasn't me. And I asked them to do something different than I normally would. And I was going off someone else's agenda than I normally would.
Got it.
That conversation had a bunch of consequences, all of which I wish I could take back. And I called them the other day. I didn't get them on the phone, but my fear was, can I have a conversation with this person and apologize and take ownership for how I acted? And I'm telling you, I have never felt such an overwhelming sense of confidence. I hope to speak to them. They've not returned the call, and I said that in the message. If you don't want to talk, hey, no problem, no hard feelings. But find things that terrify you, conversations that you're unwilling to have, and go have them. It is the most powerful, unlocking, I think, thing that you can put in front of yourself to be better today than you were yesterday.
Dang, mic drop. I freaking love that. And it's so opposite of what like the average advice tells you, sit down and make your goals. And again, I love what you said. For the average person, 90% of people, that could be a great place to start, but maybe you're feeling kind of stuck, or you're feeling like there's still things that I should be doing. And I feel like writing those fears down and then taking a small action. I mean, listen, you're not going to regret making progress towards something you need to do. I mean, I feel like we all could sit on the edge of our bed and say, there's some things that I need to be doing, some things that I'm scared about. For me, it's like in 2024, I want to lean all into video. I've been a little scared to really make video a big part of my routine for the podcast and all that. And so for me, that's like something I'm scared of. So I feel like this is just hitting close to home. And I think it's a fantastic challenge, man. Thank you for sharing that.
Awesome. You'll crush video. You pick everything up so quick. So.
Oh, man, I appreciate it. Okay, before we wrap up, if folks want to get a better understanding of who you are, what you do, how you add value, where should they go check out your stuff, Matt?
Yeah, thelaunchguide.com. I think the launchguide.com site will give people a sense for like what I'm trying to do, how I want to help people specifically, and our best effort to help grow, scale, maximize someone's business. At the very bottom, if you want to stay in touch, there's a place in that footer there where someone could subscribe to be part of our newsletter and email chain. I love what I do so much that I would do it for free. I would absolutely do it. Unfortunately, I got these 4 kids. I got to take care of these guys, but so I got some limitations. But I give everything away that I possibly can to anyone who want to hear. I love it so much. I'll talk to this wall about this stuff for 8 hours once we hang up. So like. thelaunchguide.com, scroll to the footer, just enter your email and sign up, and we'll send you information you can use to help yourself.
I love that. And guys, the newsletter is fantastic. I was mentioning earlier, I went back and read them all. Matt gets honest. He gives you practical insight on how to grow your business, and it's entertaining. So definitely check it out. And Matt, I want to say thanks for coming on, man. I had a blast getting to know you better and just kind of diving into your background.
This is wonderful. 2 thanks that I wanted to say. 1, thank you for the opportunity. I really appreciate everything in life is an opportunity, and you provided me one today, which I love. And 2, thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for being so out there and courageous, just be able to help people that need what you're providing at just the right time. And they might be introverts, they might be leaders, they might want to be both, man. So I think it's incredible. So thank you.
I appreciate it, Matt.